Well, hello, everybody. I'm Nancy Laine, and we have the great pleasure of talking with Jerry Castanos today. Hi, Jerry. Thanks for joining us.
Hello, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Jerry is a pioneer in the field of 3D printing, and so many of our transitioning veterans are interested in mechanical engineering and, engineering design and 3D modeling, that we just figured it would be just the perfect thing to talk to Jerry, because Jerry, you're an Army veteran. And here you are, with your own store. Now you've got the only physical 3D printing store in New York City. Is that correct?
Well, actually, recently got some competition, but we're still, like to say, we're the best in New York City. So,
Absolutely. And so now you were in the Army, and if I remember correctly, when we were talking earlier, you were telling me that you got interested in 3D printing when you were working for Honeywell over in the Middle East, right? Was it Iraq or Afghanistan?
Oh, no, I was in Afghanistan, and I was part of Army Material Command. There's tons of different programs under that command, and they were, talking about 3D printing and kind of bringing it to the forefront, which got me very interested in it and kind of piqued my interest as more of a civilian consumer application to it. So I did a lot of research in it, and that kind of got me excited.
Interesting. So when you got out of the service, you just knew that that's what you wanted to do, is 3D printing. Is that right?
Well, I was a defense contractor at the time when I was in Afghanistan. So the reason I left was to start this retail business because it just, I saw so much potential in that market, in that field, and the growth. It's catching on like the computer was back in the 90s, right, where everybody's kind of getting introduced to it. You're seeing it in schools. You're seeing it in small businesses. So I wanted to be part of that.
Oh, how exciting. I think it's got to be just one of the most exciting topics that we could possibly dream of right now. And as I was telling you just a couple minutes ago, Jerry, one of our strategies with our Project Transition USA group on LinkedIn, I'll just show you here, is the way we introduce our transitioning military to people like you who are doing some really amazing things, and maybe even suggesting some things to them that they may never even have considered for a career when they got out. We start discussions like this, like you'll see right here on the screen for those of you who are watching. This is the discussion we started to welcome you, Jerry, and in the discussion I just told them a few things, that I had learned when I was talking with you the last time on the phone, and then I just kind of invited people to help me welcome you into the group. And so people that have an interest in this kind of field, they're starting. You can just see right now there's just, 8 comments already, and they're starting to welcome you. So what would you tell these people? These are mostly people who are transitioning out of the service. Tell me, how did you transition from the military into something like 3D printing?
Yeah, well, it's interesting because military veterans tend to be great entrepreneurs, right? They're used to dealing with large organizations. They're used to working with small resources at some points, and they're disciplined. So just to say that moving, into a field like 3D printing, which is new and hasn't really been tested in certain markets, a veteran has the skill sets to kind of implement it. They could see a problem and get a solution for it. And that's something that 3D printing does for a lot of markets. So.
Wow. So what areas in 3D printing do you think are going to be growing the fastest? What areas should people consider looking at right now?
So there's 2 different ways I could structure that. The area that's going to be growing the most in dollar figures will be medical, guaranteed without a doubt. We're seeing medical prosthetics. We're seeing medical models for practice. We're seeing 3D printed bio organs done, 3D printed teeth, as teeth replacement. So that's going to be the big dollar figure. That's going to be the huge financial driver of 3D printing. But as far as speed and implementation, I believe it's going to be in education. We're seeing middle schools, high schools. There's even one elementary school in New York that has a 3D printer. So those schools are going to pick up on it greatly, and they're going to start giving more and more curriculum to kind of fuel that STEM initiative that everybody's going after with robotics and 3D printing and circuitry, Arduino boards, and so on and so forth. So, to answer the question, medical will be the biggest dollar figure, but the fastest implication will be on the educational front.
Fascinating. Yeah, just, and we know that the space station has their own 3D printer right now. It's like, where can't you find a 3D printer now?
Right. It sounds very science fiction, but, we have the International Space Station who received the 3D printing quite some time ago, and they've 3D printed some parts and tools. So, we're 3D printing in space, so it's going to be commonplace pretty soon now if we got it up to that level.
Wow. So now, in your store in New York City, you were telling me that you're specializing in the consumer range of 3D printers. And I remember you said that 3D printers are ranging from $300 to $1 million. I mean, what kinds of 3D printers do you have in your store, and what can people do with them right there?
Yeah, so we have the plastic-based 3D printers. So let's say, give you a real world case here. I had a kid come with his father the other day, and he wanted to 3D print a grappling hook for a challenge that was on the internet using 3D printers. So he designed the file. He gave it to us. We printed it out for him, and then he was able to submit that to the contest. So, that was a real-world application with a kid who was 10 years old, right? So
Jeez.
That's one way. Another one is we've had people who were designing wearable technology, and they had a unique design for their print. They just wanted to print out a prototype to see how it looks. They'll send us the 3D design. We'll print it out, and then they'll get it, and everyone's happy.
Wow.
So you can see those types of real world.
So you actually help people then. They're not just left on their own when they buy a 3D printer from the internet or something. If they buy it from you, you help them learn how to use it, right?
Right. I mean, we do give them instructions, obviously, because that's the benefit of having a physical storefront, is that you're actually talking to someone, and you're just not ordering off of Amazon or eBay, hoping for the best, or ordering online.
Sure.
Right.
Sure. Now, what 3D printing companies do you know that are hiring right now? Any in particular?
Well, there's a few interesting companies out there. I mentioned, number one, the bioprinting company, Organovo. I believe they are growing.
Mm-hmm.
Organovo.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're based in California, and they are building. And I think that company has great potential in the future. They said that they wanted to 3D print an actual liver. So that's, amazing work that they're doing there.
A liver?
Other companies,
they're printing a liver. Wow. Mm-hmm. Wow.
But other companies to look at, that are growing quickly, Shapeways, which is a 3D printing service bureau. They're based in New York. But they're also looking to expand rapidly and hopefully, bring 3D printing to every doorstep within a few days. Amazon is also growing their 3D printing niche. They're trying to find out how to, adopt it. There's another specific company, MakerBot, who sells tons of consumer 3D printers. They're growing rapidly as well, based in New York. So New York is becoming another, I want to say it's going to beat out Silicon Valley as far as tech and innovation.
New York is going to beat Silicon Valley. Oh, this is so interesting. Now, can you give us just a couple quick tips as we end up here, and how people can use their military network to just kind of slingshot into civilian work?
Yeah, I mean, utilizing that military network is key, right? So when I transitioned from the military, I was a sergeant, background in logistics, and my first move, I was fortunate enough to get a defense contracting position in Iraq using that same skill set. So, looking at those kind of entry level points into the defense contracting is great, or within your MOS, because that's something that could transition over very well. And you'll be surprised how many people are either, supporting military veterans or veterans themselves now in key positions. So, reaching out to that network, getting a hold of people. There's groups like Vets in Tech, which, gather, and that's a group of technology veterans who are doing some great startup work. So you really got to leverage that network, that military network, to your advantage.
Right, right. And I know that you're on a very tight time schedule today, Jerry, so I just want to thank you again for spending a few minutes with us here. And I'm just so grateful that you've joined our Project Transition USA group on LinkedIn, and you're okay with our vets inviting you to connect, right? I don't mean to put you on the spot,
Please.
But is it all right? Okay. And
yes, I consider myself a huge networker, so please send me an invite, drop me an email, give me a call, send me a text.
Awesome, awesome. And thanks again, Jerry. I'm going to let you run right now, and maybe we can even have you back for another short session sometime if we can come up with some different questions from our listeners, okay? And thank you so much.
Well, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. We'll talk again soon. Thanks. Bye for now.
Bye-bye. Bye.